You've heard of the Ten Commandments and the Seven Deadly Sins, right? Seriously, they're two of the most famous lists ever. They've shaped our laws, our art, and even how we think about what's right and wrong. Most people just assume they both came straight out of the Bible, like etched in stone by God or written on sacred scrolls. But what if I told you that that isn't the case at all? Seriously, one of these lists is totally a human invention. It's a tool that was created centuries after the Bible was finished. Today we're digging into the surprising origins of the Seven Deadly Sins and figuring out why the church found this man-made list so useful. What you thought you knew about sin is about to get a serious reality check. Okay, before we get to the invention, we need to look at the original blueprint, the Ten Commandments. That's the foundation. The original story is about Moses, who climbed up Mount Sinai and gets a set of divine laws that were directly from God. They weren't suggestions, they were commands. You can find them in two places in the Bible, Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. Don't have any other gods but me, don't murder, don't steal. They focus on external actions. They're a covenant, a sacred contract between God and his people. Now, how people count them can vary. Usually the first three are for our relationship with God, and the last seven for our relationship with each other. But as history unfolded, the church realized they needed a different kind of tool, one that looked not just at what people did, but why they did it. And that brings us to the great invention, the famous list: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Those do not appear in the Bible, not as a list, not as a formal group, not anywhere. The Bible totally condemns stuff like pride and greed in various verses, but those organized seven are a product of human tradition and not scripture. So if it didn't come from the Bible, where did it come from? We gotta travel all the way back to the 4th century Egypt. In the word of the first Christian monk, these guys were known as the Desert Fathers, who committed their lives to spiritual discipline. One of the most influential was a monk named Evagrius Ponticus, who wasn't trying to write a new law, he was creating a manual for the soul. He identified 8 evil thoughts that he saw the root temptations tormenting the monks. His list was a bit different: gluttony, lust, greed, sadness, anger, sloth, vainglory, and pride. For Evagrius, these were the toxic starting points of sin. Evagrius' list of 8 evil thoughts was a powerful tool, but it mostly was within the monks' communities. For it to become a cornerstone of Western Christianity, it took a couple of key figures to popularize it and be able to adapt to it. The first was a student named John Kazan, who brought these ideas from Egypt to Europe, translating them into Latin. But the most important figure was a guy who became one of the most powerful leaders in history, Pope Gregory the Great. Around 590 AD, Gregory took a circulating list and gave it an update. He was a great organizer and saw the need for a new version for the entire church. He made a few key changes. He folded vainglory into pride, seeing as it was just a synonym for a deeper arrogance. He also merged sadness with acedia and changing the concept of sloth not to just mean laziness, but a spiritual sorrow and apathy. And lastly, his version added envy, a vice he saw as a critical source of human misery. With Gregory's influence, the list was set: pride, envy, wrath, sloth, greed, gluttony, and lust. He didn't just edit it, he promoted it everywhere, famously calling pride the queen of vices, in which all the others are born. This human-created list was now ready for the mainstream. That's pretty wild, right? If you're liking this historical detective work and want to uncover more stories just like this one, just hit that subscribe button and click that bell. It helps us keep asking these big questions. And that brings us to the main question: why? If the church already had the 10 Commandments from God, why did this new list of 7 deadly sins become so popular and influential? The simple answer: they do 2 completely different jobs. The 10 Commandments are a set of external laws to tell you what not to do. Don't kill, don't steal. They focus on actions. The 7 deadly sins, on the other hand, are a list of dispositions. They aren't the actions themselves, but the motivations that lead to sin. The church called them capital vices because they are the head from which other sins flow. Think about it. The commandment is, you shall not steal. But why does someone steal? It could be because of greed and endless desire for more, or it could be driven by envy, a resentment of what their neighbor has. Wrath can lead to murder. Lust can lead to adultery. Pride can lead to putting yourself in the place of God. All of a sudden, priests have a powerful diagnostic tool. It gave them a framework to understand the root causes of people's struggle. It was a move that was beyond just forbidding the act. It was more personal and psychological, and honestly, a super effective tool. So the 7 deadly sins weren't meant to replace the 10 commandments. They were a complementary system. One is the law, the other is the diagnosis for why the law gets broken. You can almost map them onto each other. Take pride, for example. Many people call the root of all sin. It's an excessive love on oneself, putting your own desires above everything. That's a direct challenge to the very first commandment. You shall not have any other gods before me. When you're consumed with pride, you literally become your own God in a way. Lust, the desire for sexual pleasure, is directly tied to you shall not commit adultery. Wrath, or uncontrolled anger, it is the fire that can lead to violating. You shall not murder. And sloth, it can lead a person to neglect their duties to both God and their community, violating the commands to honor the Sabbath and respect their family. So now the relationship is clear. The commands are the what, the deadly sins are the why. They're two sides of the same coin. One from scripture and another from tradition. One focused on our actions and the other on the state of our heart. So what the Bible has about the 10 commandments versus the 7 deadly sins is nothing at all, because one of them simply isn't in there. The 10 commandments stands as explicit divine law delivered by Moses. The 7 deadly sins are a brilliant tool crafted by human hands, born in the 4th century monk, refined by a 6th century pope, and used for centuries as a map to the human heart's darker inclinations. The story of these two show an evolution in religious thought is to shift from rules to understanding why we do what we do. The church didn't throw out God's law. They developed a powerful tool to help people understand why they failed to follow it. The real hidden truth isn't just that one list was an invention, but that this invention gave millions of people a new language to understand to their own inner battles, a language we still recognize today. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe so I can continue making videos just like this one. And have a nice day.